Hey, you. Yeah, you, come on, get comfy and just relax for a bit. No rush, no worries. Let yourself sink into your pillows and take a slow, deep breath. Tonight, I've got a quiet little story from Skyrim to help you drift off. Think of snowy mountains, cozy fires, and soft whispers of magic in the air. Nothing wild or scary, just calm and peaceful. So, close your eyes if you want, and let me take you there. Ready? Let's go. Part 1: The Call of the Voice. Snow whipped across the Pale like a ghostly tide, veiling the path ahead. Rinna trudged onward, her breath crystallizing in the frigid air. Her furs were soaked through, and her boots clung to her feet with the heavy weight of frozen slush. But she didn't falter. Each step up the 7,000 steps of the throat of the world was one step closer to answers she could no longer ignore. She had left behind Whiterun under the dim light of dawn, after returning the Dragonstone to Ferenga and slaying the beast at the western watchtower. The Jarl's steward had called her Dragonborn, a word that rang louder than any war horn in her ears. Then came the call, the voice, thundering across the sky from the east. Dovahkiin! Did you hear it? She'd asked Lydia as they stood atop Dragon's Reach. The housegal nodded gravely. The Greybirds. They summoned you. Now, with only her dog Ghost beside her, silent and loyal, Rinna climbed alone. Wolves had tested her strength at the base of the mountain, and a frost troll higher up left deep gashes along her left arm. But she had endured. Along the way, she read the etched stone tablets recounting Ugan Windcaller's journey, the Nord who brought peace through voice. Each tale struck a chord in her chest, like she was reading not just history, but prophecy. Ghost let out a low growl, ears twitching as a dark figure emerged from the swirling snow. Rinna readied her blade, but relaxed when she recognized the old pilgrim robes. Traveler, croaked the man. You walk the way of the voice. I seek the Greybirds, Rinna replied, warily. He nodded with a toothless grin. Then you are either very brave, or very foolish. Rinna smiled grimly. Maybe both. With a wave, the old man hobbled past, vanishing into the mist. Ghost barked once, then moved forward. At last, the monastery appeared. A dark shape carved into the cliffside, ringed by stone lanterns that flickered dimly in the blizzard. The great doors of High Hrothgar stood tall and still. Rinna raised her fist and knocked. The sound echoed like thunder. The doors creaked open with an eerie slowness, revealing a cavernous hall beyond, dimly lit by braziers. The air was thick with incense and age. It smelled of stone, dust, and something older, power. A figure stepped forward from the shadows. Hooded and robed in grey, his presence was calm but commanding. You are Dragonborn, he said. Come. We have been waiting. Rinna stepped inside, snow trailing from her cloak. Ghost stayed close, wary of the stillness. I am Master Arngay, the monk said. You have heard the voice. It calls you here, as it did those before you. Why me? Rinna asked, her voice hoarse with cold. I didn't choose this. The voice chooses no one. It reveals itself to those destined to wield it. You have spoken in the tongue of the dove. Arngay gestured, and the other Greybirds emerged silently from the shadows. Each bore the same serene expression, but their eyes gleamed with purpose. "Come," Arngay said, leading her to the center of the hall. "Let us see your strength." They placed a rune stone before her. "Shout," he commanded. "Let us hear your voice." Rinna took a deep breath, recalling the feeling from the watchtower, the primal power welling up in her chest. "Foos," she cried. The word exploded from her, blasting the rune stone backward and sending a gust of wind howling through the hall. The greybirds did not flinch. Arngay nodded solemnly. "You are dragonborn." For the next hour, they tested her. First with simple shouts, "Ro, da, wood." Then with meditation and silence. Her mind wrestled with the ancient sounds and their meanings. Every word was more than language. It was intent, power, will. Later, over a humble meal of bread and tea, Arngay finally spoke again. "The dragon you slew at the tower, it was but a servant. Alduin has returned." Rinna looked up, her fingers tightening around the clay cup. "The World Eater?" "I've heard the legends." "They are no longer legends," he said. "Alduin brings death and fire. Only you can stand against him." Rinna's heart pounded. She glanced at Ghost, who stared into the fire. "What must I do?" she asked. Arngay stood. "Retrieve the horn of Ugin Windcaller. Prove your worth. Return it here. Then we shall teach you the rest of the way." As she rose to leave, Arngay placed a hand on her shoulder. "Be wary, Dovahkiin. The path ahead is long. And the voice alone is not enough." Rinna descended from High Hrothgar with a storm at her back and purpose burning in her heart. She had faced wolves and frost trolls before, but the path ahead was darker, steeped in forgotten magic and deathless whispers. Ustengrav awaited, an ancient Nordic barrow deep in the marshes of Jarlmarch. She stopped briefly in Morthal to resupply. The marsh town was quiet, shrouded in mist. Children peeked at her from behind fence posts, their eyes wide with curiosity. Jorna, the innkeeper of Moorside Inn, handed her a meal wrapped in cloth. "You're brave to go into that place," Jorna said. "Most who enter never come out." Rinna gave a small, tired smile. "That seems to be a pattern in my life." As dusk fell, Rinna and Ghost moved through the fens, the glow of torchbugs lighting their path. Frogs croaked in the shadows, and the water squelched underfoot. Finally, the stone archway of Ustengrav emerged from the mist like the bones of some slumbering titan. Inside, the air grew thick and cold. Nordic urns lined the walls, and the flicker of ancient fire pits danced across time-worn carvings. Ghost stayed alert, ears forward, hackles slightly raised. The first chamber greeted them with silence, broken only by the whisper of distant wind. But as they descended further, the dead stirred. Draegr, clad in rusted iron and wielding ancient swords, rose from their tombs with hollow growls. Rinna fought like a tempest. Her blade sang with fury, slicing through bone and sinew. Her voice cracked the crypt wide open, "Foos Ro Dar," sending enemies hurtling into walls. Ghost lunged and dodged beside her, biting at exposed limbs, protecting her flank. Hours passed in darkness. She lit her way with oil lanterns taken from the fallen. Each chamber grew more elaborate, the carvings deeper, the silence heavier. At the heart of Eustengrav, a vast chamber opened up, pillars of stone rose from a subterranean river. Across the water stood a raised platform. There, the horn was supposed to rest. But the pedestal was empty. A note lay in its place, bound in red ribbon. Rinna read aloud, "Dragonborn, meet me in Riverwood. Sleeping Giant Inn. Do not speak of this to anyone. Delphine." She stared at the note, jaw tight. "Who is Delphine?" she whispered. Ghost growled softly. Rinna closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The voice had called her. The horn was stolen. Someone knew more than they should. It was time to find out why. Rinna arrived in Riverwood under the cover of night. The sleeping giant inn looked as it always had, humble and quiet, nestled beneath pine trees and the shadow of the mountains. Inside, the fire crackled and the scent of roasted venison lingered in the air. Delphine, the innkeeper, gave her a sharp nod. "Follow me," she whispered. Without another word, she led Rinna through a hidden door behind the wardrobe in her room. It opened to a stone basement, filled with maps, books, and old blades' armor. "I'm Delphine," she said, closing the door behind them. "And you've just stepped into a war that began long before you were born." She handed Rinna the horn, wrapped in linen. "I needed to make sure you were truly the Dragonborn." Rinna raised an eyebrow. "You stole from the Greybeards to test me." "I had to be sure," Delphine said. "You're the only hope we have against Alduin." Rinna paced the small room, eyeing the maps. "You know about him." "I know he's returned. I've been tracking dragons. And they are not just returning, they're being resurrected." Rinna froze. "By who?" Delphine met her eyes. "That's what we need to find out. There's a dragon burial site near Kynesgrove. If we hurry, we might catch one in the act." Rinna nodded slowly. "Then let's go. If someone is bringing them back, I want to see it for myself." Delphine's eye softened. "I'll get my gear." We leave at dawn. Outside, the night deepened, and the wind carried whispers through the trees. Alduin was coming. And Rinna would be ready. The road to Kynesgrove was long and cold, winding through pine forests dusted in early snow and the jagged passes of East March. Rinna and Delphine rode hard, with Ghost sprinting beside them through the frost-bitten night. The moon cast a silver path on the road, and the wind carried the eerie cries of distant wolves. "We need to hurry," Delphine urged as they crested a ridge, Kynesgrove flickering with torchlight in the distance. "If we're too late, the dragon will already be gone." Rinna nodded grimly. Her fingers clenched the reins tightly. "Let's hope it's not." As they neared the outskirts of the village, a frightened stable hand ran to meet them. "It flew over not an hour ago," he stammered. "Huge! Black as midnight. It flew up to the old burial mound, just beyond the hill." Delphine dismounted and drew her blade in one swift motion. "We go on foot from here." They climbed the narrow trail behind the village, the trees thinning to reveal a rocky hilltop. Smoke and sulfur tinged the air. Ghost sniffed and growled, ears pinned back. Suddenly, the sky split with a terrible roar. Above them, wings as wide as the mead halls of Whiterun beat against the clouds. The black dragon circled once, then descended to the mound with a thunderous impact. Rinna crouched low behind a boulder. "It's him," Delphine whispered. "That's Alduin." The dragon raised his head to the sky and roared. Not in rage, but in language. Rinna could feel it in her bones. The very earth trembled. "Soloknir, zeal grow doverals." Alduin bellowed. From beneath the soil, ancient stones cracked and shifted. Flames erupted as another dragon's bones tore free from the earth. The skeleton twisted, flesh reforming around it in seconds. A new dragon, smaller but deadly, unfurled its wings and screeched to the heavens. "Soloknir lives once more," it cried. Rinna rose slowly. She felt the words building inside her. "Fus Rodar." Her shout ripped through the air, catching Soloknir off guard. Delphine charged forward, blade flashing in the firelight. Alduin snarled, wings snapping open. "Zuyu Hinkaran," he hissed at Rinna, "I am your death." But instead of attacking, he turned skyward, leaving his resurrected kin to finish the fight. Rinna focused on Soloknir, dodging bursts of flame and lashing out with ice magic. Ghost lunged at the dragon's tail, drawing its attention just long enough for Delphine to bury her sword between its scales. "Now!" Delphine shouted. Rinna called upon the voice again, "Yoltu Ashul." A jet of flame met the beast's face. With a final roar, Soloknir crashed to the ground. And then it happened again. The dragon soul surged into her, like heat flooding her veins. Rinna gasped, staggered, her hands trembling from the power. Delphine watched in awe. "You really are dragonborn." Rinna looked toward the horizon, where Alduin had vanished into the night. The war had truly begun. The cold wind rolled across the hilltop, but Rinna barely noticed. The heat of the dragon soul still burned in her chest like a brand, filling her with clarity and unease. She flexed her fingers, letting the residual power ebb, and glanced at Delphine, who stood a few paces away, wiping blood from her sword. Delphine sheathed her blade and walked slowly toward Rinna, her gaze sharp but not unkind. "Now do you understand why the world needs you?" "I understand that something ancient and monstrous is walking in the world again," Rinna said, voice low, "and that I'm supposed to stop it." Delphine nodded. "Not alone. There's more going on here than Alduin. He's not just a force of destruction, he's strategic, calculating. And the dragons, the ones he's raising, they aren't just beasts. They are soldiers." Rinna looked out over the scorched hill, the air still thick with smoke. "Then we'll need an army of our own." Delphine exhaled slowly. "That's why I brought you here. Not just to see Alduin's power, but to convince you to join the Blades." The Blades. Rinna narrowed her eyes. Weren't they destroyed? Scattered? Hunted? But not gone. I was one of them before the Empire betrayed us, before the Thalma declared open war on our order. The Blades were founded to protect Tamriel from dragonkind. That duty didn't end with the war. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "We've been preparing for this. Waiting. Watching. We need you to help rebuild." Rinna studied her carefully. And what would that mean for me? It means learning everything we know about Alduin, training in our ways, and more importantly, finding the one person who might still hold the key to his defeat. Rinna tilted her head. Who? Esbern, Delphine said. He's a historian. One of the last surviving blades. I've been searching for him for years. Rumor has it he's hiding in Riften, deep in the Ratway. Riften? Rinna sighed. Of course it's Riften. Delphine allowed herself a wry smile. You'll like it there. Full of thieves, liars, and secrets. I doubt I'll like anything about it, Rinna said, turning to gather her pack. But I'll go. If this Esbern knows something that can help stop Alduin, I'll find him. Delphine nodded. I'll meet you there after I cover our tracks. Don't trust anyone, Rinna, not in that city. The Thalmor have eyes everywhere. They descended the hill in silence. The village below was quiet, save for the low murmurs of frightened villagers hiding behind shuttered windows. Ghost padded ahead, his steps light, but his ears alert. As Rinna passed the stable hand who had warned them earlier, he bowed low. You killed it, he whispered. You killed a dragon. I did, Rinna said. But there are more coming. And then she rode for Riften. The gates of Riften loomed through the morning fog, their spiked tops like claws against the sky. The stench of rotting fish and damp wood greeted Rinna as she approached. Lake Honrich's bitter perfume. She tightened the straps of her cloak and dismounted, Ghost trotting close at her heels. A pair of city guards stood watch at the entrance, and one stepped forward, eyes narrowed beneath his helmet. Hold there. Entrance tax. 20 septims. Rinna didn't slow her stride. There's no entrance tax. The guard stiffened. There is now. She stepped close, her voice barely more than a whisper. You really want to test a dragonborn right now? The man paled, stepped back. It must have been a mistake. Carry on. Rinna passed through the gates, scowling. Riften was as she remembered, suspicious eyes from every shadow, hands always a bit too close to one's coin purse. Even the stones underfoot seemed to hide secrets. She made her way to the Bee and Barb, the city's busiest inn, where the low murmur of disreputable voices filled the air like smoke. Drunks, thieves, mercenaries, it was a den of vipers, but one that whispered truths if you knew how to listen. She found her contact near the hearth, a grizzled man with an eye patch and a mouth that hadn't known a toothbrush in years. His name was Bryn Var, and he owed Delphine favors from long ago. I heard you were looking for someone, he said, gesturing her to sit. Old man. White hair. Talks to himself. Lives under the city. Where exactly? Rinna asked. The Ratway, he said, then grinned, revealing a missing tooth. Down where even the guards don't go. If he's still breathing, he's hiding somewhere deep. Rinna stood. Then I'd better find him before someone else does. Bryn Var leaned in. One more thing. The Thalmor are here. Quiet-like. Looking for the same man. Of course they were. Beneath Riften, the city's filth collected in dark tunnels known as the Ratway, twisting passages of rotwood bridges, crumbling stone, and the echo of long-forgotten crimes. Ghost followed behind her cautiously as they descended into the underworld. The moment her boots touched the lower platform, a knife flew past her shoulder and buried itself in the wall. "Wrong place, hero," growled a bandit emerging from the shadows. Rinna didn't respond. She simply reached for the voice. "Foos!" The shout sent the attacker flying into a pillar. Before he could rise, Ghost was on him, growling. The others scattered like rats. The way ahead was treacherous, traps, collapsing floors, thieves desperate enough to die for 10 septims, but Rinna moved like a shadow with a purpose. She fought when needed, avoided where she could, always pressing deeper. Finally, she came upon a heavy door marked with strange, etched symbols, imperial, but faded with age. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder. A voice croaked from within, "Go away. I told you people, leave me in peace." "Esbern," Rinna called. "I'm not with the Thalma. I was sent by Delphine." Silence. Then, bolts turning, the clatter of chains. The door creaked open, revealing a hunched man in moth-eaten robes, hair white and wild, eyes wide with fear and brilliance. "Delphine sent you," he rasped. "Yes. Alduin has returned." Esbern's eyes widened even more. "Then it's worse than I thought." He gestured her inside quickly and slammed the door behind her. Esbern's hideout was more of a tomb than a home. Piles of ancient scrolls, ruined books, and cracked dragon murals cluttered every surface. Dust hung thick in the air, glowing gold in the candlelight. In the back of the room, a map of Skyrim had been pinned to the wall, marked with dragon burial sites in trembling red ink. Rinna watched Esbern pace like a caged fox. His hands trembled, but his mind was sharp. Ghost sniffed around the room, eyeing a stack of half-eaten skeever tails suspiciously. "So it's true then," Esbern muttered. "The Dragonborn has returned. The signs all point to the same terrible truth." "Alduin," Rinna said softly. "He's raising the others." Esbern nodded, his voice low. "Just as the prophecies foretold. He is the World Eater, the harbinger of the end times." Rinna crossed her arms. "You were a blade. Why didn't the others stop this?" His shoulders slumped. "We were broken when the Empire signed the White Gold Concordat. The Thalma hunted us down like animals. I went underground, Delphine too. But we never stopped watching. Preparing. Waiting." He paused at the map and traced a trembling finger over a small dot near Whiterun. "Skyhaven Temple," he said. "That's where we must go. There lies Alduin's Wall, an ancient record built by the Akaviri, long before the Septim Empire. It may hold the key to defeating Alduin." "I'll take you there," Rinna said. "But we need to move quickly. The Thalma are already hunting you." Almost on cue, a muffled crash came from the corridor outside. Ghost growled, hackles raised. Esbern's face turned pale. "They've found me." Rinna pulled her sword. "Stay behind me." The ratway shook as armored feet thundered toward them. The first justiciar kicked down the door, sword drawn, and found himself blasted backward by a sudden shout, "Fus Ro Dar!" He crashed through a bookcase and lay still. More followed, quick, ruthless, golden-armored agents with curved blades and cruel eyes. Rinna fought like a tempest, blade singing, fire bursting from her palms. Espen scrambled to pack scrolls into his satchel, dodging stray arrows. Ghost tore into the flank of a Thalma soldier, dragging him down with a savage snap of teeth. Steel clashed. Magic cracked. But when the smoke cleared, Rinna stood tall over the bodies, her breath ragged. Espen, still panting, nodded solemnly. "You are everything Delphine hoped you'd be." "We're not safe yet," Rinna said. "Let's get out of this sewer." Hours later, after navigating the twisted back routes of the Ratway and slipping through the city's outer drain pipes, the trio emerged into the early morning light. Riften was still asleep, unaware of the storm that passed beneath its feet. They rode west without stopping, heading toward the Reach, toward Skyhaven Temple. As the sun rose, Espen turned to Rinna. "There's more I must tell you about the shout that can defeat Alduin. But first, we must find the wall. Everything depends on what's written there." Rinna glanced to the horizon, her heart burning with urgency. She didn't know what lay ahead in the Reach's dangerous highlands, or what secrets waited at Skyhaven. But she would find them. And she would be ready. "Well, my friend, what a journey it's been so far. But it's getting late, and it's time for me to sign off. I hope you've enjoyed the story as much as I've enjoyed sharing it with you. If you did, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps a lot. Until next time, take care and rest well, my friend.